Hi, I'm Sally Nabokov. I am the warehouse manager. I work for Co-op Logistics and I oversee the warehouse operation at our RDC up in St Helens.
Okay. Hello, I am Giuseppe Cacra. I'm a Co-op team manager on the operations side at Lee Green Depot.
So Giuseppe, I know it might sound really obvious, but what is warehousing? Can you explain what warehousing is, please?
Yeah, so basically warehousing is basically all the activities that involves in storing the products, sorting them out and dispatching them to the stores. So it's basically picking, packing, loading them into the trailers and making sure they are delivered to the stores in time. So it's basically the backbone of all the companies that are regarding food or in other sectors. So can you give me an overview of your career up to now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have worked in logistics, specifically in retail distribution for the past 18 years. And I first started, my first position in a depot was actually in the customer service team. And I always say, I really feel like this was the best place to start. It gave me a really, really good foundation about how a distribution centre runs, as well as, some great skills in service management and dealing with our stores. I quickly became a team leader from there, and then the opportunity came up to join our transport team as a transport planner. So that really grew my knowledge around transport operations. After that secondment finished, I became the site customer service manager, so responsible for all of the customer service team and function. And then an opportunity came up to become a department manager for the stock and admin team. So that was a great role. It was my first role in having leadership over multiple functions, over multiple shifts. From this, I moved into warehouse operations, and I have been the warehouse manager at Lee Green now for the past 2 years. In this role, I have full leadership over the warehouse function. I have 7 direct reports, so 5 shift managers plus our planning coordinator and our customer service and stock manager. I have 34 team managers that I look after, as well as 425 warehouse operatives.
Okay, nice.
So, Giuseppe, tell me about your career to date now.
First of all, I come from Italy. So I used to work as a pasta machine fixer. And then I decided to come to the UK just to change my career path. Up to then, I've never worked in logistics before. So as I came to the UK, I started working in logistics. And I came to the Co-op. So I started as a picker, packer. Then after that, I started developing into upskilling myself. So basically, I started doing FLT, which is forklift driver. Then from there, I went into a goods in, goods out department. And then from there, I got a development into the stock department team. And from there, then my next step was to go on the managing role. So when the opportunity came, I took it, and I'm currently now the operations manager, especially for the chill chamber. And I've got under me about 15 to 20 people at the moment. That's it at the moment.
Can you give me a snapshot of what your daily tasks look like?
Yeah, so being a team manager at the moment, my primary daily task is giving information to all my team, which involve in having daily briefs, in giving them information about what's the total workload for the day, for example, or for example, giving them information about the safety measures that we have in the depot, giving them info about also like the job opportunities that are in the depot. I also oversee the health and safety of my department, making sure that everything is up to the safety standards. And one important thing also in my daily task is making sure of the well-being of my staff, because that's really important, because they are working for me, so I need to make sure that they have all the materials needed for the job they are doing, and also making sure that they're in the right mind frame, because they're handling like heavy equipment. So that's part of my mainly daily tasks. What about you? What are your mainly daily tasks in your job role?
So, my job role is a lot around leadership. So, I lead, teams of people. So, team development, coaching, mentoring is a big part of my job role. Health and safety, though, is always our number one priority. And you've already mentioned that,
Yep.
that you do that as a team manager. So part of my responsibility is just making sure that the depot as a whole is compliant to health and safety procedure, policy that we have, health and safety law. So it's a really big fundamental part of my role. But also a big part of my role is managing our budget and cost budget. So that is cost as as the pound value, but also our KPIs and our performance metrics. A significant part of my role is around collaborating as well with other key stakeholders, so internal departments, but other areas of our business such as supply chain, transport people team, all our third parties, so agency and USTOR, our union, making sure that we have really good positive relationships with those, all part of making the warehouse operate as it should.
Okay.
So Giuseppe, tell me, is warehousing a dead-end job?
So absolutely not. And I can say I'm an example of that. So obviously I started from the very basic tasks, as I said before. So I started from picking and packing, and then I upskilled myself in other jobs like FLT, goods in, goods out. But there is also a lot of opportunities to develop in, for example, in the planning team, in the more managerial role, like team manager. You've got you can also develop in becoming the stock team manager, for example, or developing the stock department, for example. So there is a broad range, and you can also have opportunities in joining the transport department. So it's definitely not a dead-end job. You just need to have that extra bit, give that extra effort and put the work in and have the commitment to say in a couple of years, I want to develop in this. And that's what it takes. So you just need to put that extra effort in it. But there is definitely loads of opportunities in logistics.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, warehousing is far from being a dead-end job. And like you say, I've, started as a customer service team member and been able to progress and to where I am now. And there is so much opportunity within warehousing, but also the wider family of logistics as well. A lot of the skills that you learn in warehousing are transferable into other industries. And warehousing and logistics is just such a dynamic industry. And there is so much change that's happening at the moment, which makes it super fun and interesting and exciting time to be in warehousing. So yeah, I couldn't agree more that warehousing is far from a dead-end job. Tell me, what is there something in your role that you do that would surprise others that don't work in warehousing?
Yeah, I think when you think about warehousing or logistics in general, people think it's just a numbers-driven environment. It's only about the picking and the packing, but it's definitely not. As being a team manager, warehousing is also about the people. You need to know your audience. You need to know each person is different from the other. So you need to know how to approach the people. You need to know how to drive the people to give you the performance that's needed. You need to also look at the well-being of the people. Make sure they are actually well. That's not a given that people might come in and they might have issues. So in a way, you also need to kind of understand how people are feeling in order to be able to give them the help they need. So it's not just about, you need to pick and pack and that's it. No, it's also about making sure that you've got that people side in you. So that's one thing that many people might be surprised of, or how much people side of the things is really important into warehousing.
Yeah, I actually really agree with you. People management and looking after our people is a fundamental part of all of our roles in warehousing management. part of my role is around like creating that environment and that culture, fostering like a really positive culture, to ensure that our colleagues are engaged, well looked after, like enjoy what they do, also like productive. So yeah.
As you are the warehouse manager, what is the hardest challenge you face up to now?
I think probably one of the hardest challenges that I faced, maybe not as the warehouse manager, but in my career, was when COVID-19 hit. So I was the stock and admin manager at that point, and so ran a department of team managers and colleagues, and especially in our industry during that time, being in food convenience, like we became like an essential service warehousing as well as retail, and it was a tough time to like sort of navigate the people element, making sure that people were safe, that we was implementing all of the government measures, as well as being able to deliver on the output and service into stores. But yeah, it was be a time in my career that I will always remember, but I think has also helped, develop like my leadership skills as well in that having to overcome those challenges at that time.
Okay.
So can you tell me what your hardest challenges have been in your career to date?
I think my hardest challenge I've faced during my career is when I was in the stock department, and when I settled in the stock department and I was looking at what my next step would be. And so when the opportunity to become a team manager came by, I wasn't really too sure of whether to take that route or try and instead stay in the stock department and maybe progress and become maybe the stock team manager instead of the operation team manager. So that was probably the hardest time I faced in my career, because I really wasn't sure about the direction I wanted to go. So, but then obviously I decided to take the opportunity that was presented at the time. So, and then I decided to go to the team manager role. So I would say that was probably the hardest challenge I faced, like making the decision and not knowing really if it was the right or not, because you might have some doubts sometimes, but at the end of the day, I decided that that was the right step to do, and here I am today, and I think it was the right choice to do.
Yeah. Do you enjoy being a warehouse team manager?
Yeah, I do enjoy being a warehouse team manager, especially coming from the very, let's say, bottom and then progressing myself. So that's the next step, was the right next step for me. So yeah, I do enjoy it.
What would you say are like the 3 like key skills that you have had to learn or have that have been able to help you within your current role?
So first of all, I would say communication. I think that was the most important skill that I had to, let's say, learn, because communication is key, not only in warehousing, but in every other job. It's communication is key. You need to keep all your staff informed about everything so that they make sure that they're well informed. So communication is probably the most important skill. Being flexible and dynamic also is one of the important skills to have, because not everything goes smoothly. So when there is an issue anywhere, you need to be proactive, you need to act quickly and think quickly about the solutions you can have so that it doesn't really affect your workflow that much. And as I mentioned before, also being a people person is something that not everyone has the skill, but it's something that you still need to learn and that everyone can learn. That's a very important thing, the people side, knowing, treating people as people and not just as numbers, because that's when you can get the best out of people. So learning that people skill is a very important thing also. So I would say those 3 are the skills, the most important skills to have as a team manager at the moment. Cool. What about you? What are the 3 skills that are most important in your role?
Yeah, I think actually, to be honest with you, very, very similar. I mean, we've already talked quite a bit about like the people management element of our jobs, but that is really the most important thing that we do. It's around like being people managers and managing our people. So having that as a skill, like the leadership in people, like is definitely like probably the biggest skill that you need to have, like, you know, and to work toward or to work on, like in my role. And you've already mentioned this as well, but like, you know, resilience and being able to adapt to change. What I really love about warehousing, specifically like in, like, you know, our distribution center, our retail distribution center, is that fast-paced, like, you know, movement of like what we do. You know, it's continuous, like, you know, it's got energy, and, you know, but things can change in a minute, like, you know, so being able to deal with that, and, you know, being resilient, like, you know, to change, accepting of change, driving change, those are really, really important. Tell me a little bit about your work-life balance. Like, is it important?
Definitely. I think in any type of career, jobs, the work-life balance is quite important. So I work 8 hours for five days. That's 40 hours, you know, and especially in my role, it's very challenging, you know. You get challenging times, you look after people, so having that switch off when you go home is really important, just to, you know, reset, regain your energy, and then start all over again. You know, you don't want to be like carrying too much work at home, and then because in the long term it gets up to you. So it's always good to have that switch off from work. You know, when you're on work, you have the 100% focus on what you're doing, but then when you're off work, you need to try and switch off, let's say, your brain, so that you can recharge your batteries and get on going again, you know, have fully strength to get going on and on. So yeah, I think the work-life balance is very important. And I think in warehouse, they do a good job in planning, you know, like your work days, your rest days, so that you don't work that many days per week, you know. So I think in warehousing, a good job is really done to make sure that you have the right work balance. So yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Other than your current role, what would you say, because you've had so many roles in your career path, what was the best role to date?
So that's really tough, because yeah, you're right. I've had quite a few roles, and I've loved every single one of them. Every one of them has brought something different. But if I had to pick just one aside for the one that I'm doing now, I would probably say my stock and admin manager role. And the reason why I would choose that one over the others is because it was my first like leadership role of, and I already mentioned this, of like leading like multiple functions over multiple shifts, like a full department. You know, I learned a lot of skills in there, a lot of skills around leadership and stock management, inventory management, another side to the warehouse function that I hadn't really been exposed to before in customer services and in transport. And I really feel like it's given me a really good foundation to be able to do the role that I'm doing now. A lot of stuff is applied, and it was a really great role for building like networking connection outside of the depot as well. Like, you know, there was a lot of collaboration with project team, IT, supply chain. So yeah, it was a great role. Yeah. I know that you are still relatively new in your team manager position, but where do you see yourself going? What does like your career path look like for the next couple of years?
Well, the next couple of years, I imagine myself getting a development in the shift manager role. You know, I think that's the next step after being a team operations manager. So obviously, I only started being a team manager for a few months now. So I think once I've really settled myself into the role, I will look into having a development plan to, you know, to get a step up in that. And who knows, in the future, I might be aiming at your role. So yeah, those are my plans.
Love it. Love some ambition, yeah.
Yeah. What about you? What are your what is your next step?
Yeah, well, really similar. Like, I have some ambition. Like, you know, I feel like I want my next step to be a general manager's position. So I'm really prioritizing like my own personal growth and development. In that, I am getting myself involved in some like network projects and picking up additional responsibility in the depot. And I am really working towards that goal of becoming a general manager one day.
Okay.
So, yeah. Tell me, what do you think is the next big thing in warehousing?
The next new big thing in warehousing, I think, is gonna be automation and AI driven. And what I mean by that is probably being not everything, but most of the tasks being automated with robots. You know, making the picking and the packing more efficient, and also AI driven, meaning using AI to better have a stock inventory, more efficient, more accurate. You know, so I think this is the new big thing, and we can already start this going on. You know, with newer warehouses already having some of their tasks being automated with robots. So I really do think that that's the future for warehousing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It is a really exciting time, and even us in Co-op Logistics, like, you know, we're now just starting to like dip our toes into that area, and I'm really excited to see what comes from that. If I was going to add anything to that, I'd probably say also like sustainability, like, you know, like warehouses are becoming like more eco-friendly. We are looking at things like electric driven, like MHE, solar power. So like, you know, that is definitely going to be something definitely already on the pad and on the agenda, and things are already happening in that space in warehousing, which makes it a really exciting time to be in this industry.
Yep, totally agree.